Hey guys, this is another moment with Misty Eyez, where I'm just going to talk and share my heart and my thoughts and talk about whatever I want. But the topic of today is going to be Anchorage, Alaska, Big Lake, Wasilla, Palmer, and my family in Alaska. For those of you that watched my last moment with Misty, where I talked about the anxiety and nerves and fears about going to Alaska, I'm going to talk a lot about that. And give you a recap of my trip. I've already talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people's comments are the same. I saw your pictures. Your smile is so genuine. I know it went well. And it did. In fact, it was complete night and day different of what I could have ever imagined it would be. It was truly a blessing, this trip to Alaska. I almost canceled it many times. I was so nervous and scared, and I didn't, and I went, and I made the promise to myself, if I'm going to go, I'm going to do it completely. It's all or nothing. I'm very that. I tend to be OCD about certain things, like, for example, the movies or CDs or whatever are alphabetized, or they're completely not in order at all. Earrings or whatever. So I was like, it's all in, or don't even go. And so I went and I committed 100% to this trip. A lot of things happened for perfection, meaning right before I went on this trip, I had a very special friend come into my life. I actually talked about him for a half an hour on the last video. He's not my boyfriend, but he is a very special friend. He's a gift from God. God gave me a lot of things I need from him. And one of the things he helped me do was, on the way to Alaska, I read 2 books on audible.com while I was in the plane. One was called The Voice of Knowledge, and by the same author, something about love. I can't look at it, it's on my phone, which I'm recording, but I will screen capture it and put it in this video for you. So I was actually listening to this and getting my heart in the right place. And one of the things he also helped me deal with and or focus on this trip was, it's not what people say, it's what people do. Actions speak louder than words. And he kept telling me that and kept drilling it into me. For example, before we went up there, one day we were on the couch just cuddling or spooning and hanging out. And again, we're not boyfriends. He's not my boyfriend. We're not husband and wife. We're not boyfriend, girlfriend. But sometimes it's nice to spoon. And he's a very special friend like that. You know, filling a void in my life, I guess, where intimacy is needed and required. But we were in an argument. And we weren't even in an argument. I was just misunderstanding what he was talking about. And he was like, well, remember what I was talking about for Alaska? I'm like, yeah. He goes, actions speak louder than words. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, what are my actions saying? I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean? He goes, what's my left hand doing? I'm like, it's holding my left hand. He goes, what's my right hand doing? I'm like, it's in between my legs, around my thigh. What's my foot doing? I'm like, it's around my foot and in between my legs. What's my other foot doing? I'm like, it's around my legs, like pretzel people, kind of like that or whatever. And he goes, all right, so what's my body doing? I'm like, your body says that you love me. And he goes, what are my words saying? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, my words don't matter because my body is telling you. My body speaks so much louder than my words. Come to find out, his words were the exact same things. I was misinterpreting what he was saying, but that really helped me when I went to Alaska. And I'm going to go into that in a minute, but I have prided myself on being very real and very vulnerable on all of my Misty Minutes and on my Ask Misties, and I've never shied away from telling you anything about my life, especially if it's to help other people. So I think what I'm going to do is just give you my entire testimony right now, my life story, and tell you how it affected my trip to visit my family and why I was so traumatized in the fact that I was going to go. One of the things you need to know is, as children, we have no choice but to listen to our parents and trust our parents and our family 100% because they're the bread and butter and they are everything. We look to them for every question, every answer. And we have no choice but to look at them and believe them and rely on them. And as adults, We are responsible for our own thoughts and fears and things. And the sad thing is, as an adult, I was still caught up in a web of lies. A lot of malicious, vicious lies that I was believing from my mother, and my family and my church. The thing is, as a child, we are taught to be a certain way, do certain things. Be good, you get a cookie. Be bad, you get a spanking. Be strong, be well-mannered, be masculine. And I learned very early to start pretending to be what I wasn't. I always knew I was different. I always knew I was weird. I always knew I was unique. I always knew I was special. And as a child, I tried to hide that and not be myself because I wanted to impress my family. And as I got older, I started to try to impress and or please people in order to get into heaven. But the funny thing is, as a Christian, I'm going to tell you, you can't please people to get into heaven. You have to please your Lord and Savior. And it can't, you know, you get very... Oh, and Christians are the worst. They point out other people's sins so that they look more holy. But again, it's what's in the eyes of God, not in the eyes of people that go to your church. But long story short, I was caught up believing that I was not worthy, that I was not okay, that it was not okay to be me. And the thing is, you know that saying, the truth shall set you free? That's what my story today is about. The truth will set you free. When you see and hear the truth, the lies cannot exist. And it's amazing. I know I'm talking in circles because I want to tell my whole story in a second. But what happened was, I believed I was not loved by God, which is not true. I believed I was not going to heaven, which is not true. I believed God was going to punish me. That is not true. I believed my family did not love me, which is not true. I believed I was not worthy of love, which is also not true. I believed all these lies. And again, once you witness the truth, it will set you free. And these lies cannot exist. And when my family openly accepted me and showed me true unconditional love, I didn't know what to do. I was completely dumbfounded. I was like, what? It was shocking. And the funny thing is, once you realize that you are not who and what you always felt and believed you were, your entire foundation crashes. My entire life has completely changed in the month of January. In the month of January, I have shed more tears than I think I've ever cried in my whole life. I've cried with my cousins. I've cried with my siblings. I've cried with my mom. I've cried with my dad. I've cried with my everything. I had so much bent up frustrations and guilt and I don't even know. And I finally just let all that go. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This text message I got from one of my cousins. I'm going to leave her anonymous just because a lot of people might know who it is. Obviously, she will know who it is. But if people know my family, if anybody in Alaska watches this, I don't want it to be like, you know. Actually, when I tell all my stories, I'm going to try to keep it kind of anonymous. But one of my cousins sent me a text message. She's like, oh my God, it was so great to see you. I love you, and I don't know why you're so nervous. We all miss you. Why did you disappear? Why did you leave? And I replied and I said, I guess I feel like a walking freak show. And her reply was, well, I would never judge someone by the way they look, talk, or smell. It's all about their personality. And my darling, you have an amazing personality. Even if you're missing a leg, you'd be great in my book. And what I come to realize was that my family thought I abandoned them. Most of my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and even some of my siblings did not know what was really going on in my brain. And they just thought I abandoned them. Like I didn't want them. If I didn't love them, I didn't accept them. And that is so not the case. So I started to feel really guilty about that. And then I started talking and sharing and just being real. One of my other cousins, he was like, I really truly respect that you have not sugarcoated anything this trip. You've laid down the law and told me exactly what's going on, which is what I'm going to try to do to all of you. All right, so as a little kid, I always knew I was unique and special and different and gay. I knew I was attracted to boys at a very, very, very young age. At a very young age, I started to become uncomfortable around two of my uncles. One is very, very, very macho and big and strong and in the military and like a sergeant and, you know, very... And I just started to feel uncomfortable around him because I was so not like him. Much like a girl wants to hang out with girls and not with boys, it's kind of how I felt around him. One of my other uncles I started not feeling comfortable with because, and I know that he never did this to me, but he's very, very homophobic. And he would say things like faggot and queer and that man over there is as queer as a $3 bill. And he would throw those hate words around, and my little sensitive ears, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, would hear him say things like that. Now, I realized he didn't know I was gay, and he wasn't calling me that, but in my little brain, I knew he was talking about people like me, and therefore, in a roundabout way, he was talking about me, even though he wasn't. So that's my little baby childhood. When I was 13 years old, my mom married my stepdad. That's when my whole life completely changed. My stepdad was a baby Christian. Now, when he married my mom, she already had 5 kids and he had 2. So our Brady Bunch family was very, very, very weird, very, very, very traumatized. Without spilling too much of my family's private information, there was a lot of sexual and emotional abuse and physical abuse in my mom and kids' family. And my stepdad and his kids suffered some things as well. And we were both damaged. Both of our families were damaged. My stepdad was a brand new baby Christian and trying to do his best and accept my mother and her family, and we kind of become one. The problem with me as a child, I now lived in a super Christian family. He was super strict. I went from being the mom and the dad and the big brother and the babysitter to being a stepchild. My mother basically sided with him on everything. She was, I guess, desperate and needed, you know, a man's whatever. And she always sided with him on whatever he thought, whatever he said. So, in my mind, he treated me like a stepchild. Therefore, she treated me like a stepchild. And I became a hardcore Jesus freak. I, again, tried very, very hard to be the perfect child and to be what I wasn't. I wanted to be heterosexual. I wanted to be straight. I wanted to be masculine. I wanted to be, you know, I got very, very, very involved in the church. I became a church camp counselor. I got involved in the youth programs. I became an overseas missionary. And I really started to believe that I was demon possessed by the spirit of homosexuality. And I started to hate who I was, who I am. I started to believe that I was going to hell no matter what, and that God fucked up and made me wrong on purpose. And no matter what I could do, I tried to fight it. And when I graduated high school, I went to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because I felt that if anybody could deliver me, it would be Oral Roberts, or it would be Richard Roberts, or Benny Hinn, or Shara Pruitt Salem, or one of the worldwide televangelists that come through my university. We were always having we would always have revivals. And I knew that that's where I needed to go. I would be delivered. I got engaged 3 different times to 3 different women, trying to force myself into heterosexuality. And every time there was an altar call or like a prayer session, I would go and have an unspoken prayer request or ask to be delivered or healed. And I wasn't. I became a music minister. I became a youth minister. And as this all went along, I started to get more and more desperate, more and more depressed, begging God to just take me and heal me and fix me and make me normal. And after my 3 failed engagements and or almost marriages, I finally started to believe that God hated me completely. And I became extremely suicidal. As in, I wrote my suicide letter. I planned my death. I didn't tell anyone. I had no intention of telling people I'm going to kill myself, because I didn't want them to feel sorry for me. In fact, I didn't want anybody to know I was even depressed. I was trying my best to hide it, but I was determined. I wrote my suicide letter and I told who was getting my car, who was going to get my stereo, what was going where, who was getting what, and a lot of apologies, and just basically a heartfelt reply saying, I tried. And I tried my best, and I couldn't make it, and I'm a failure, and I'm sorry. All right, so I'm in a very, 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 very dark, dangerous place. The darkest, most dangerous place I've ever been in my entire life. I've been close a couple times, but this one was the scariest. I started to flunk out of all my classes, and one of my friends realized something was going on, and he's like, hey, can I come hang out with you? Let's spend the day together. Let's go to church or whatever. And Tulsa, Oklahoma is full of mega churches like Rhema Bible College, Church on the Move, Higher Dimensions. And that's usually the churches I went, or Guts Ministries. And we usually rotated, you know, those big churches, or Victory Christian Center. And we didn't go to a mega church this day. We actually went to a different church. It was still a big church, like 300 to 600 people. And I remember sitting in the 15th row, and I didn't want to be there at all. I was giving up. I hated God. God hated me. I hated Christians. Christians hated me. It was just a very unhealthy place and a very, very unhealthy relationship. And I remember, but I wanted to hang out with my friend. I liked him, and I liked his wife, and blah, 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 blah. But it was just us two. And we were just there, hanging out. And I remember, okay, ORU is a Pentecostal religion where a lot of times you get words from God. And in the middle of the service, I don't even remember what the preacher was actually preaching about, because again, I didn't want to be there. I wasn't listening. All of a sudden, he starts talking about the spirit of suicide. And a lot of times people have altar calls for something, like there's someone in our church tonight whose back hurts. I need everyone whose back hurts, come to the front and we'll pray for you. That's what I thought it was going to be. It was not like that at all. He said, someone in the audience has a spirit of suicide, blah, 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 blah. And he started talking about loving yourself and loving. And he just was kind of rambling, I think, as he was listening to God talk. And then finally, he walked over to my section of the church, which was very far stage right from the stage part. But if you're in the audience, I was all the way over there, about 15 rows back. And which would be on the left if you're in the audience. He walked all the way over there and goes, someone over here, who are the ORU students over here? And like 15, 20 people raised their hand, because Tulsa had a lot of ORU students. I didn't. I had no intention of being called out. I had no intention of being, because a lot of times in church, they have no problem calling you and saying, you're the one. So I was terrified, literally going through it. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because I know he's talking about me. And I sat there and I was like, looking down or something, I don't know. And then finally he goes, no, 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 it's none of you. And then he looks right at me and goes, do you go to ORU? And I go, yeah. And I wanted to lie, but my friend knows I go to ORU. The people that go to ORU around me obviously know I go to ORU, and I didn't lie. I was like, yeah, I do. And he goes, He goes, I have a very, very private word. And the way he worded it, I think it was so that nobody would think he's talking about the suicide he was talking about like 5-10 minutes ago. He goes, I have a very, very private word for you in my office. For those of you who don't know church, a lot of times, or actually not a lot of times, like every Sunday after church, the minister will go to the back of where people leave and hug and kiss everyone and be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. How's your dog? How's your sister? How's your pet? Don't forget whatever, just hug and kiss and love on their congregation. And he told everyone in the room, he's like, I will not be doing the meet and greet after service today. I will be in my office talking to that one right there. It's very important that I talk to you. God has this very serious message for you. And I started to shake. And I was terrified. In fact, I told my friend, I'm like, hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he's like, no. He wants to talk to you. He has to talk to you. I'm like, no, we need to go, we need to go, we need to go. Long story short, we stayed. And the second the service was over, the minister was in his office. And I think he knew that if he wasn't, I would have found a reason to leave and or walk away. And he called me into his office, and he welcomed me into his office. And you know how there's a big desk and a big chair, and there's two like comfy chairs in front of the big desk. He sat in a comfy chair and welcomed me down to sit in the other comfy chair. And thank God my friend sat outside, because he had no idea that he might have, I think everyone knew I was gay, but he didn't know what was going to be happening or what was about to go down. He sat down and he's like, look, I know everything. I'm like, everything? I've never met this man before. How does he know everything? He goes, God gave me a lot of images and a lot of visions and a lot of things about you. And my head just started to explode during the service today. And I was like skeptical and like, yeah. He goes, God told me to tell you that he has a very big, important plan for your life. And he doesn't want you to kill yourself. And he doesn't want you to end it. But he also told me that he's not punishing you. He doesn't make mistakes. And he's not delivering you from your homosexuality. He said all these words. Like, a lot of times people will say, like, he's not answering your unspoken prayer request. But he straight up said, he's not delivering you from homosexuality. I was like, he stabbed me. But he's like, God's not delivering you from your homosexuality because God gave it to you for a reason. And I was like, what? Because how is this Christian man, this minister, telling me these things, where all along I've been hearing something different? Long story short, we sat in his office for like 3 hours, bawling our eyeballs out. And he's like, I know you've tried to force yourself into heterosexuality. I know that you've cried blood and tears at the altar. And God has not delivered you because God does not make mistakes. He gave you this for a reason, and you are created in his image and you are perfect. So long story short, my life was saved that day by a minister in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who truly saved my life. And I started to accept my homosexuality. Baby steps, like, oh my gosh, I've hated this part of myself for so long. How can I start to like it? And at that moment, I started to accept myself and love myself. And that's a journey that has been taking place for a very long time because I'm still working on learning and accepting myself. But I wrote a letter to my family maybe a month or two, or maybe 3 after the miracle intervention. And I told my family, look, I'm not going to fight this anymore. Is basically the point of my story. Because that's what it was. I've always known I was gay. And I told them, I'm like, look, I haven't changed. I'm still the same person. In ninth grade. In 4th grade, when I was 9 years old, I remember being in love with a guy named Aaron Smith, who was in my class. And I loved him. And I'm still the same person I was back then. I think I listed a name or two more of, you know, people that I was best friends with, but I was in love with. And it was like, look, I'm still that person. I'm not changed. I'm not different. I'm just me. The bottom line is I'm not going to try to be straight anymore. And I wrote that letter to my family my senior year of college, and I never got a letter back. Not a phone call, not a letter. But this is where the shade begins. 3 months after that letter was written to my family, I got kicked out of ORU. It was found out that I was to be homosexual, and ORU kicked me out because I broke the honor code. Yeah, that was a very, very scary time in my life. So I freaked out. I called my mom and I told her, I just got kicked out of ORU. And she basically told me that she was disappointed that I gave up my fight, that she always knew I was gay, but always expected me to keep fighting. And that she was disgusted with me. I was an abomination. I was repulsive. I was a disappointment. I was a lot of things. Oh my God, I feel like I'm gonna cry. I did so much crying about this topic that I didn't think it was gonna happen. Like, I've cried to so many people. But my mom told me that I wasn't welcome in my family because I was this person, because I am me, because I am who I am. And unless I come back to Jesus, I'm not welcome in this family. So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I don't need this family. So I accepted my disownment. And, but it was very scary because, I mean, I had friends and people to hang out with in Oklahoma, but after you go to college and you know, you don't have the dorm and you don't have the community campus life, you're like, what do I do? So, long story short, I ended up moving to Naples, Florida with this guy who was very, 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 very wealthy. And I was a very, very pretty princess in a castle, so to speak. I was a kept boy, so to speak. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I wasn't allowed to have a job. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. And it was very, very lonely and very scary. Well, the worst part is he became abusive and put me in the hospital 3 times. And then after the 3rd time of being in the hospital, I remember sitting there in the hospital bed. He didn't even come visit me the 3rd time at all. And I remember being there thinking, I've just turned into my mother. I remember as a very small child, I witnessed my mother get beaten up on a daily from my bio dad. And I was like, holy crap, I've just become my mother. I've got to get out of this. I've got to get out. So at that moment, I started to, again, actually, first, I became suicidal again. And I remember thinking, I'm going to kill myself and he's going to be really sorry. And then I remembered hearing that, and I don't know, something clicked in my head from the first time when I was suicidal. I was like, wait a minute, I can't kill myself because some asshole. And besides, how is he going to be really sorry? Oh my God, I'm stupid. So then I started to sneak out stuff. Like, I had my car from before we were together. I had my car. It was a clunker. In fact, he wanted me to get rid of it because he said that it was defacing the property. Anyways, whatever. So little by little, I would take stuff out and sneak it and put it in my trunk, or, you know, a couple pairs of socks here, a couple pairs of underwear there. And so when I finally had some clothes saved up or hidden, maybe my yearbook or something I felt valuable or a keepsake hidden and put away, I started to plan my getting out. And I remember he gave me his credit card to go get gas. I was like, put $10 in your car and go to Publix and get this, that, whatever. And I remember I was like, oh my God, I have his card. So I filled the entire tank. And back then I had like a hoopty. And it was like $50 of gas. And I remember I got home and he was so mad. Livid, going through it like apeshit crazy. I was like, I'm sorry, I put it in and then I had to pee so bad. I ran in and by the time I came out, it was done pumping. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And that night he got drunk and ended up passing out, and that's when I hit it. And that first night I started driving and driving and driving and driving and driving and driving. And then finally I saw a rest area and I pulled over and was like, where am I going? I have nowhere to go. I have 1 tank of gas. I have no money. I don't have a cell phone. It was in the year 2000. I had a pager though, I think. I don't remember. What do I do? So I slept in my car in the rest area or park. It was kind of like a park more than it was a rest area. Like a fishing rest area. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But I knew that nobody would bother me. So I slept in my car. And the next day, I remember waking up and I called my mom. And this was the hardest thing for me to do because I was already rejected so fiercely. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I just got out of the hospital. I'm in an abusive relationship and he put me there and I just got away. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. And my mom gave me the same speech, but worse. This time she told me that I was disgusting and an abomination and I was a disappointment, but also that as a homosexual, I would never live a life of happiness and I didn't deserve love. And of course he beat the shit out of me because I was worthless and I was a piece of trash, and went on and on and on and on and on. And I just remember thinking in the phone all these lies and just letting them soak into my life. I am worthless. I don't deserve love. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh. And I hung up. And I remember thinking, if I can't go home, where can I go? So I slept in my car for 3 days. And when I lived in Oklahoma, I was a singing waiter at the Macaroni Grill. And Macaroni Grill is owned by Brinker, and Brinker owned Chili's. So I remember I went to Naples Chili's and I was like, please, 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 can I have a job? I don't have an apartment. I don't have a phone number. There's no way for you to tell me I got the job, but I will be back in 2 days. And I'm like, I was a trainer at Macaroni Grill. You're definitely going to want me. They're going to give me a high recommendation. Please, please, please call them. I need this job. I'll be back. And he goes, don't come tomorrow, come in 2 days. So I remember I came back in 2 days, and I remember I stole a newspaper, and I had no money. What was I going to do? So I stole a newspaper, and I was looking in the personals, and there was an ad for Roommate Wanted, and it was so gaily written, as in, open-minded male seeks the same. I was like, if you're not a homo, I don't know who is. So I was the only one I read and the only one I called. And it was so far from Naples. It was like a suburb of Naples. And so I remember thinking, oh my God, this is so far. If he doesn't let me come there, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have any money. But I took the chance and I went all the way out to Golden Gate. And yeah, he was an older gay man. And and I explained to him, and I started crying, and I was like, look, I just got out of an abusive relationship. I don't have anything. All I own is a couple things of clothes and what's in my car. That's it. But I just went to Chili's, and hopefully I'll have a job there in 2 days, and I promise to give you every penny I get until I pay the first month of rent, and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, he let me in. And my first making it for myself situation. So that was Naples. I got a job at Chili's. I ended up getting a job at Versace. I was a makeup artist, and I started to get my feet back on the floor. But again, like I said in the beginning, I believed those lies. I believed I was worthless. I believed I didn't deserve anything. I also believed that my family hated me. I remember talking to one of my aunts while I was in Alaska this trip, and she was like, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me? And I was like, how could I? My mom doesn't love me. My mom, the one that I look to for everything, does not love me. My mom told me I was disgusting and I was an abomination and I was not welcome in this family. How am I supposed to go to you? Meanwhile, her husband was the one that, you know, said faggot and queer and $3 bill. So he's homophobic, and how is she going to love me when my mom doesn't? That's the point of the story. How could I? I was a kid. And she's like, well, never let that happen again. Never let that happen again. So I'm so glad that I have my Aunt Stacy back, because growing up, she was best friends with my mom when I was 3 years old. Such best friends that she ended up marrying my mom's brother. And I'm so glad to have her back. But now I'm living in Florida, and I have no family, and I accepted it. I didn't like it, but so I basically just accepted the fact that I was disowned and I was an abomination and I didn't have family. I was initially kicked out of my family in the year 1998. I moved to Naples in 2000. 2001, I moved to Fort Lauderdale. In about 2007, things started to change a little bit. Meaning, my brother, who's also gay, graduated with his master's degree and wanted to visit me. The first one of my siblings that had visited me in almost 10 years. The first member of my family that really reached out to me and was like, I love you, I want to see you, was my little brother. And he called me in 2007 and was like, can I come see you? I want to come down and visit. So he visited me and actually ended up moving in with me for like 5 years. And that's where the little things started to happen. The little bit of changes. Because meanwhile, I'm disowned. I'm an abomination. I'm disgusting. I don't deserve family. Nobody loves me. I'm worthless. All these lies I'm believing and telling myself. And I don't need family. And I don't want family. And I can do this without them. Right? So my brother visits me in 2007. And he moves in. And we become really good friends. And we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of hearts to hearts. And he just graduated with his master's in psychology and did a lot of therapy on himself and helped me. So he started to warm my heart to the idea of family. In the year 2007, my sister Dina and her husband came to visit as well. They came for Thanksgiving. And it was the first time anyone in my family besides a gay person went to one of my drag shows. My brother-in-law tipped me and my sister tipped me, and it was amazing. It was like, whoa, you guys are accepting me. But my brother-in-law was my brother's best friend all through college and ended up marrying my sister. So realistically, I could have justified it and said they were coming to visit Shane, not me. But they still came to visit me. So now it's 2010, and my stepbrother gets married, and he invites me to the wedding. Wait, a stepbrother loves me? A stepbrother can accept me? How is this happening? And my stepsister invites me to stay in her house. They both live in Indiana, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm totally coming. Meanwhile, I was dating someone, and they invited him too, and welcomed me into their family, meaning my sister and all her kids and her significant other. And we bond, and we get along, and I did not bring drag. My brother and his wife actually asked me to do drag at the wedding, and I said no. But my sister and her partner decided to go with me to a drag show in Indiana just to see a part of my life that they've never been exposed to. I wasn't in the show, I wasn't dressed up, but I was able to tell them like, oh yeah, I do this song or whatever. They just got to witness a part of me, and it was just really amazing. And it's funny because now I'm telling these stories, and yet I still believed all those lies, those big webs of lies that nobody loves me and I'm unwanted. So then in 2011, my sister Dawn Renee and her husband visit with the children. And they visit, and we go to Orlando, and we do Magic Kingdom, and we do Epcot, and we do Animal Kingdom or whatever. And this was the first visit where I truly felt my eggshell cracking. Meaning, it was just perfect love and acceptance. And I remember when I left, I was so devastated. I was crying and crying and crying and crying. Because I had told myself for so long that I didn't need family. I didn't want family. I didn't. But I really did. And to have my little baby sister back was so intense. And she loved me unconditionally. And she had questions, and I was very respectful for children. But that was the catalyst. That was the little thing that changed inside me without actually changing. because my little baby sister and her husband, the minister, welcomed me into the fold again. And what's funny is after learning on this trip, Dawn Renee had no idea that I was disowned. She just thought that I disowned them. And so this trip is major. She came down here to visit me thinking I didn't want anything to do with her. Wow, that's deep. Then my world came crashing down in 2012 when my brother moved back to Anchorage, Alaska. For his own reasons. I'm not going to talk about his life and whatever his struggles, but he did go back to Anchorage, Alaska. He's very, very happy there. He's very glad he moved back. I wasn't. Because here I am telling myself, I don't need family. I don't want family. And now I'm like, oh my God, family. I love family and family is so important. And you fucking leave me? Are you kidding? Is this a joke? So I think like 3 or 4 months after he moved back to Anchorage, my cousins were getting married. It was a dual wedding. 2 of my cousins had a wedding on the same day, in the same, it was like literally like 1 minister and 2 couples. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And my brother Shane and my sister Dawn Renee, who had come to visit me in Florida, and Dina visited me in Florida, and her husband, all lived in Anchorage. And they had all, Dina didn't know I was coming, but Dawn Renee and Shane were like, please come, please come, please come, please come, please come, please come, please come. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to. And this was like, the only reason I will come, and the only way I will come, is if this is done secret. It was just me testing the waters. But I made my little sister promise to be my bodyguard. Her and her minister, her husband, I was like, you need to protect me from mom. You need to protect me from dad. You need to protect me from anything that could happen. And she didn't understand this trip, my fears or frustrations, but she was right there. She was like, I will be your bodyguard. She was raised by this, you know, in the same family. So she understood at least a part of what I was going through. And the cool thing about this trip was that everyone was very busy. It was a wedding. Nobody knew I was coming. My focus on this trip was I was going to visit the people that visited me in Florida. They went out of their way to visit me. I'm going out of my way to visit them. Everyone else is just frivolous. But it was testing the waters. I could put my feelers out. Did he hug me genuinely? Did he touch me sincerely? Do I make her uncomfortable? Does she not want to be near me? Granted, everybody was busy, but nobody was uncomfortable really, except for me. I was uncomfortable in every situation, but they were like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? I didn't know you were here. Hey, how are you? But it was so busy. It was click, 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 click. But I really focused on my siblings and their children. I did agree to meet with my mother on the very last day. I wasn't there to see them. But my mom was like, you're here, please, let's hang out. And this was like a really tiny baby step in our relationship. We drove, and I actually talked about it in one of my other videos. I think it's called My Family Hates Me, where somebody wrote in telling me that their family hates me. I'm like, honey, if my family can change, yours can change. And mine was just a baby step change where I talk about this trip. And I actually talk about my mom, and I'm like, she wanted to hang out with me. She didn't talk to me about me. She didn't talk to me about her. She actually talked about every other person I'm related to, but we talked. I listened and she talked, really, mostly. You know, my sister and her husband are doing this with their kids, and this is their plans, and this is their itinerary, and this is what my cousins are doing, and this is what my aunts and uncles are doing, and she was just filling me in on the family, which is important too, right? It was a good trip. It was a really good trip, and I left thinking, I will come back, right? Because nothing severely happened wrong. But let me tell you the 2 surprises and our curveballs this trip. My cousin Jeremy, oh, I wasn't going to say names. My cousin is a very butch, masculine bear man. And he genuinely loved me unconditionally and forced me to be his friend. He went out of his way to want to hang out with me. Hey, let's do something. Hey, do you want to go to Applebee's? Hey, do you need a ride to the wedding? Hey, do you want to... whatever. He showed me true love and true acceptance. Then one of my cousins that got married, she was also a curveball in that she's 2 days married and I'm getting ready to go back to Alaska on my last day. I'm getting ready to go back home to Florida on my last day, and she drives all the way an hour and a half into Anchorage to see me because she wants to spend the day with me. And unfortunately, that was the day I hung out with my mom. But those were curveballs. I expected to hang out and bond with my siblings. I didn't expect to hang out and bond with a cousin and or have another cousin even want to hang out with me. So that was a big baby step visit. Then in the year 2014, 2 years later, my sister and her husband come down to visit again, this time with 4 kids. And we talk and true love, true acceptance. And I didn't have a warning that they were coming. So with my super long hair and my super long fingernails and my extremely whatever, I agreed to pick them up at the airport and take them to the beach and things like that. And they had questions, but I had reasons. I told them that I was an actor and in a play, and I play a sorcerer, and I go, welcome to my nightmare. And then one of my nephews goes, oh, so you're evil. I was like, yeah, but it's a play. I'm not evil in real life. And my sister and her husband were so like, wow, like you really planned this out. Because I was so scared to meet them with fingernails. And I'm not going to take off my fingernails for like a 6-hour visit. I just put them back on $80 later. But yeah, that trip, Dawn Renee is the one that really changed my heart and my mind a lot. Her and her husband, like, are you kidding? You're a minister and you're able to be comfortable around me and love me? Curveball. All right, so now it's 2014 December. 16 years have passed since I was disowned from my family. My mother calls me. Usually she texts, and it's a very baby step relationship. We did talk a little bit on my last trip to Alaska 3 years ago. And she doesn't really text me on my birthday. She doesn't really text me on Christmas. But randomly, like every 3 months, she'll be like, hey, thinking of you. Or I drove by something that makes me think of you. Probably a drag queen or something. I don't know. But I'm thinking of you, you know, whatever. Just to like be in my brain, I guess. Or that I'm in her brain. And she calls me. And she's like, will you come home for Christmas? And at first I was like, no. Basically, long story short, I called her back after a couple of days thinking about it. I'm like, look, I don't have winter clothes, but I will come to Alaska, not for Christmas. I will come in January after Christmas under one condition. I don't hear that I'm going to hell every day. I don't suffer your religious abuse every day. I'm a Christian. I believe that John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whoever shall believe in him shall not, you know, that's me. Who? So just because you are going to judge me and tell me that I'm a sinner, long story short, I'm not subjecting myself to it. I'm not going to do it. And I will definitely come and visit you if you promise that's not going to happen. And I did have backup plans. I had 2 siblings live in Alaska, not with my parents. And they were both on standby saying I might need to come over. And it was funny because they both every time they saw me like, do you need to spend it on my house? Do I spend it on my house? I'm like, no, I'm fine. But yeah, so my mom took a week to call me back. She's like, I'll let you know in a couple days. I'm going to talk to your dad. And she called me back a week later and was like, yeah, Dad wants you to come up. He agrees. I agree. We love you. We miss you. Blah, blah, blah. And now, present day, it's 2015, January, and I go to Alaska, scared to death. Yes, my parents promised not to preach at me. But they can't not do something that they're only going to do. And I've never been shown true love by my family. I've never been shown unconditional love by my family. And like I said, my special friend, quickly becoming one of my best friends, I do feel that I'm starting to pull away from him. I guess defense mechanism. You know, like I haven't had the best relationship with friends, but I do think I'm starting to pull away from him a bit. But he's still one of my closest friends, and I do care for him a lot. Had me work on actions speak louder than words, like I told you in the beginning. And even when there was no words spoken, like my dad is a very quiet, reserved man, and he did not have a lot of words for me, but showed me complete and total love. Meaning, when I got there, they're like, yes, it's Anchorage, Alaska. They're like, do you need an air conditioner for your room? Do you need a fan for your room? Do you want a sound machine? Do you want a TV? Do you want a DVD player? I'm like, no. Yes, air conditioner. Yes, fan. Yes, sound machine. No to the TV. I'm like, if I want to watch TV, I'll come out there and watch TV with you guys. I'm fine. But my point is, they went out of their way to show me actions speak louder than words. We love you. We want you here. And I was not prepared for that. I was expecting the worst. And it was the best situation I ever could have experienced. And not just from them, from all of my cousins. That all of my family truly, truly, truly welcomed me and made me feel truly comfortable. Most of them, again, were like, where did you go? Why did you disappear? Why did you not like us? And I talked to all of them, and I had deep, deep, deep heartfelt emotions with all of them. I remember my cousin on Big Lake. Okay, Anchorage is like where the port is. And then if you kind of go into the valley between the mountains, you have Wasilla, Palmer, and Big Lake. And most of my cousins live out in the Wasilla, Big Lake area, which is like, depending on traffic, like an hour-ish out. And one of my cousins had a big spaghetti dinner and was like, hey, why don't we all get together at my house? And I remember I got there, I was so nervous and so scared. And I have to remember, these are my, I don't want to use the word redneck because I don't think redneck would be appropriate for Alaska, but kind of hillbilly-ish, but not hillbilly-ish. Kind of redneck, kind of hillbilly, but more like four-wheeling, mudding, snowmobiling, macho, military, butch family. Tomboys for sure, if they're not boys. And I was so uncomfortable to go out there. Like, oh my God. I started to get really nervous, and I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, if I go out there and just keep watching me, if I feel sick, I might need to leave. I definitely want to go. I'm not canceling the trip, but if I get sick, please promise me that we can leave. My mom's like, yeah, of course, whatever, sure. But within 20 minutes of me being there, I felt completely accepted and comfortable and welcome. It was shocking. I remember me and one of my cousins had a heart-to-heart. The moment I walk in, she's like, I love you and I miss you. What's going on? Blah, 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 la, 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 la. Why don't you come stay with me? And in fact, you can move in with me. And her husband or boyfriend was like, you can move in with us. We can give you the basement. We can give you the house. We can give you the whatever you want, the bedroom. And I'm like, whoa, what? You want me to live with you? Who? What? The girl that offered me the house completely loved me and accepted me and offered this huge moose spaghetti dinner. Her husband, you know what's funny is I analyze everything, and I sat down next to him during one of the parts of the evening, and I sat down, and it was a weird situation where my leg bumped his, and he didn't move. It was a non-sexual, non-even weird, but if you were grossed out and or weirded out by like, ooh, let me scoot away, or even get up and walk away, he didn't. He sat there with his leg touching mine for like 20 minutes. Granted, it wasn't rubbing or bumping, it was just a touch. But it's little things like that that I'm obvious to. Like, oh my God, he just hugged me and didn't like freak out. Or his leg bumped mine, he didn't freak out. Or, you know, I was very, very guarded, very, very protected. And I was watching everything. Actions speak louder than words. And here's my new cousin-in-law. And I don't know him, but he's not freaking out because his leg touched mine. Before the night was over, I ended up cutting his hair. And teaching his wife how to do a fade on the back of his head. It was amazing. This trip was truly amazing. Back to actions speak louder than words. One of my cousins was very uncomfortable. When he got there, he gave me a hug and didn't speak to me the rest of the time he was there. In fact, we never made eye contact. We didn't look at each other. Well, I looked at him many times because I was feeling him out, but he never made eye contact with me, never looked at me. But actions speak louder than words. So what were his actions? Well, he brought his girlfriend and their kid, and they'd been out mudding or four-wheeling or whatever all day, and they were clearly exhausted. Which, by the way, his girlfriend comes in and takes off her snow coat and snowmobile stuff and her parka and her helmet, and was drop dead gorgeous. I was like, holy shit, you are beautiful. Like, it's not fair. Stunning girl. But actions speak louder than words. All right, so they were exhausted and she wanted to go, and she was like, I'm tired, blah blah blah, and he didn't want to. So she slept on the couch with the baby, and he hung out. The party was at 7:30, so he was there from what, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, maybe 2-ish. So 7.5 hours he hung out in the same breathing space, in the same room, in the same air. We didn't talk, we didn't bond, but baby steps. If he didn't want to be there, he could have left and had many reasons to leave a long time ago. So my cousin showed me love and acceptance without words. That's what this entire trip was about. Actions speak louder than words. Even my uncle that I keep showing my bra. I think I lost weight and have to tighten the strap. But even the uncle that growing up I knew was homophobic came over, didn't have to be there, came over and tapped me and hugged me and was like, so how long are you in town for? When do you leave? What's going on? Very small talk, but it was small talk that didn't have to happen. And the thing that I want everyone to realize, and that I realized for myself, is it took me, what, 30 years to accept the fact that I'm a homosexual and to love myself and accept it. How can I expect my family and other people to truly accept who and what I am overnight? And I think a lot of times when people come out to their mom and dad, and their mom and dad are like, what? Oh my God. And they freak out. Meanwhile, you had months and months and maybe years to process this before you told anyone. Yet we expect people to just be okay with it overnight. So if my uncle is a little uncomfortable, I don't blame him at all. I'm just glad he chose to be there when I was there. And his wife, my Aunt Stacy, was like, oh my gosh, look around. And I looked around and she's like, how many people are here? And I'm like, she's like, no, don't count. Just look how many people are here. They're all here for you. It was just a miracle wow moment. Like, oh my gosh, all these lies I had been telling myself and believing just came crashing down. Like, I have my, for lack of a better word, hillbilly, redneck, country bumpkin tomboy, military, valley, macho family embracing me and loving me and accepting me. And it was the best birthday gift I could have ever received in my life. Now, one of my cousins, the big macho bear guy that showed me love during the wedding 3 years ago, I think it'll be 4 years this August maybe, but truly was a guardian angel for me this trip. Meaning, I knew my mom and dad had to get up very, very early the next day, and at Big Lake, I knew that he was the only other person that lived in Anchorage and would be able to take me back home. So I went up to him and I was like, hey, cuz, if my parents have to leave, do you think I can catch a ride with you? He was like, absolutely. And I know that he's involved with the youth, and I know he had to get up for church in the morning, and I know that he sacrificed his time and sleep for me. But he was there for me, and I kept saying, if you are going to hate me in the morning, please, 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 let's leave now. I don't want you to hate me in the morning. Please leave now. Let's go. He's like, no, we're not done yet. It was almost like he knew God's intent and or mission. He never judged me. He never made me feel uncomfortable. And he was a witness to all of the bloodshed of my soul, because I butchered and chopped so much of my soul in front of him. And I cried more in front of him than I think I've ever cried in front of anyone in my whole life. Like, ugh. And he was like a true guardian for me. In that, it's funny because I thanked him before I left, and he's like, you know what? I hear what you're saying, and I see what you're saying. I understand it. But it wasn't something I did on purpose. It wasn't a conscious decision. I'm like, that's what makes you so much more amazing. You saw an unconscious, subconscious need, and you filled that void. Meaning, he was always standing guard, protecting me. He was never more than like 4 or 5 feet away from me. Just quietly surveying the area, observing. And for example, like when I brought up, did you notice when my cousin did this or that? And he's like, yeah. He's like, did you know my other cousin did this or that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, did you know my aunt did this? And she's like, yeah. And did you know my uncle did this? And he's like, yeah. He goes, I'm like, see, you're always watching. You were like my protector, my guardian. But most importantly, he truly, truly, truly was the one that really honed in the message of love to my soul and my heart. Because here's this big Christian, macho man. And on the way home from Big Lake, we had a big heart-to-heart, and I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry. You were exposed to so much of my life that I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like, you know what? I love you, and you're my cousin, and I may not understand your lifestyle. I may not agree with it, but I love you. And I was like, oh my gosh, cousin, you know what? I may not like your brown hair, your stupid beard. In fact, I may not understand it, but I still love you. And he truly forced me to realize and sink into my thick, stupid skull that I am capable of unconditional love, true love by family. And he showed me something that my family has not shown me ever growing up, or at least in my adult lifestyle. He proved to me and showed me that family is family. And when I came back, I was like, oh my gosh, my cousin's was one of my angels. And one of my friends was like, well, you know, an angel is just a messenger of God. And I was like, well, that is definitely what he was. He was definitely a messenger of God. God used him as a vessel to tell me so much, even when he wasn't speaking. So then I look up the word angel. So now I'm curious. I've been telling my cousin he's a guardian angel for me this entire trip, thanking him, telling him I owe him so much, and if he ever needs anything, I'm always going to be there for him. So I look up angel to see what I've been calling him. Angel, it is a noun. A spiritual definition number 1, a spiritual being believed to act as an attendant, an agent or messenger of God, conventionally represented in a human form with wings and a long robe. For example, there was an angel watching over me. Whoa! Hashtag my cousin. Definition number 2. A person of exemplary conduct or virtue. My cousin. Synonyms: messenger of God, divine, heavenly messenger, divine being. Wow, my cousin has been a messenger of God and an attendant and an exemplary conduct of virtue, and truly showing me and sacrificing his time and sleep to hang out with me and truly show me love. Is it possible that God loves me so much? Is it possible that my family loves me so much? I am so grateful for him. Out of my siblings, except for my siblings, he's the only one that truly, truly, truly forced me to like, listen. He never judged me. He never made me feel uncomfortable and helped me realize that family is important. I owe him a lot. My cousin just grabbed me by the neck and the head and the shoulders and spirit and soul and just shook me and was like, damn it. You are loved. And I wasn't ready to hear that message. Now, I told you at the beginning, my mother and father truly, 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 actions speak louder than words. One of the days, I think it was day number 4, my mom and I did go to breakfast, and after breakfast, we did have a big heart-to-heart, and she basically apologized to all the things that happened to me as a child, meaning I was a witness to my bio father, my bio dad, abusing her. She apologized for the sexual abuse that incurred to me. And I told her, I'm like, Mom, I never faulted you for anything you did to me as a child. Not once, not ever. I think you were an amazing mother, and I think you did the best you knew how to do. And I can't fault her for child predators targeting a single mother. She couldn't have known that the men that were pretending to be or attracted to her or dating her were child predators. How could she know that? I don't fault her for that at all. I was there for a week, like maybe day 6 or 5. One of my sisters was like, you know, you keep saying you've forgiven Mom for everything she did to you as a child. What haven't you forgiven her for? And that's when I explained to her that she not only kicked me out once, she kicked me out twice and banned me from this family, telling me I was an abomination and disgusting and not welcome. And she was like, are you kidding? My own sister didn't know I was banned from my family. And we had a big heart-to-heart. And after talking with her and my brother and my cousin and my aunt and having lots of hearts-to-hearts about family and healing, I realized I don't even need to speak to her to forgive her. I've forgiven her for everything that happened to me as a child to her face. And I'm going to forgive her for the rest now. Because my mom went out of her way to call me and invite me home for Christmas. She went out of her way to make me feel love and comfort. And she runs a halfway house. Kind of like a boarding house, kind of like a halfway house, kind of like a special needs place. She raised 7 kids, and when all her 7 kids were gone, she basically needed something to do and to fill that void. And some of her guests or residents are from the prisons or jails. I think that one's called Partners for Progress, where they get out of jail and they go like kind of like a halfway house to transition into society while they're looking for jobs and things. And then they also do a lot with the mental health court. And some of the people that stay there are very special. And they do morning meds and they do evening meds, and they serve dinner to all their people. And I loved helping my mom do morning meds and evening meds and dinner if I wasn't out sightseeing with my aunt or cousins or whatever. And the weird thing is, night and day difference. My mother was not ashamed of me. My mother did not treat me like a dirty secret. My mother was almost proud of me. Now, I didn't bring drag. I don't have a lot of boy clothes. So most of my clothes are kind of masculine, feminine, kind of androgynous. Like, I have men's shirts, but they're pink. And I have men's boots, but they're silver and glittery. And I have, you know, but with my silicone, I can only wear women's jeans. But, she never made me feel ashamed or uncomfortable. In fact, I remember one of the most touching moments. I was helping with her meds, and one of her boarders, she was like, hey, show him your Facebook. And I'm like, what? Mom, what are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying. She's like, let him like your Facebook. And I'm like, what? Mom, I don't know what you're saying. And she's like, have him go to your Facebook. Mom, you want me to tell him what I do? And then one of the other boarders next to him goes, oh, we already know what you do. I was like, what? Night and day difference. My mother, is it possible that my mother is starting to be proud of me? Accept me? Love me? This trip was truly the best birthday gift that I could have ever received and or given myself and or gone on. I almost didn't go so many times, and I'm so glad I did. I healed myself. And it's funny because coming home, reading those books by Brian, suggested again, I read them again on the way home. And it's amazing how much those lies that you believe affect your being. For example, if I tell myself I don't deserve love, I'm blind to love. What? Long story short, I have completely forgiven my mother. And I feel love and acceptance and, I don't know, from her and my dad. My dad texted me when I got home, and he told me that I'm his son. And no matter what, he loves me. And I was like, what? He goes, I just want you to know that I will always love you no matter what. And this is from the stepdad of when I was 13 years old, made me feel like scum. I mean, he didn't do it on purpose. And I even told him he was a young man with 2 kids, now 7, in your own traumas. How can you know? Like, in my mother, for example, she was 17 when she got pregnant. She had me when she was 18 years old. You don't get a handbook. You don't get a guide to motherhood. Nobody tells you how to be a good mom. When she was 23, she was a single mother with 5 kids. How could she be? I think she was the best mom she could be. And I don't blame her for being a pastor's wife. And I don't blame her for the abuse I suffered and the being blacklisted from my family or shunned or whatever. I think that in her own way, she was trying to give me tough love. I guess I just felt like I'm the dirty secret of the family. And this trip, that didn't happen. Even one of my sisters teaches at a Christian school. And I went to visit and I fell on the ice. I fell twice on the same freaking spot. I was waiting for her outside of her classroom. And I fell. In the same spot I fell, I stood up. And then my nephew starts running up to me and was like, Uncle Cody, Uncle Cody. And I'm like, oh. And I swooped down to pick up and I fell again. I was like, So in front of the school, one of the teachers was like, oh my gosh, who was that was waiting outside your classroom? She's like, oh, that was my brother. She's like, was he wearing makeup? And I had my eyebrows tattooed, so maybe that's what she thought. And she's like, no, but he does wear makeup. And she shows her on her phone my Facebook and my Instagram or whatever. She's like, he's really famous.
And she's like, I just want to let you know that I told one of my teachers at school, and she wasn't weirded out, and she wasn't grossed out, and she didn't look at me like I was an alien. And I was like, oh my God, Dina. Yes, I was terrified to go to Alaska. But I'm really glad I did. This trip was amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm still learning. My life is still changing. I've only been back in Florida for a week, and I leave tomorrow for London. But I feel like my insides have completely shattered and changed. My entire foundation of what I've believed for my life has completely changed. And this trip was amazing. And if my family can come around, and my family is a hardcore Jesus freak family, if your family is Jesus freaks, it might take them 20 years, or 16 for me, actually, literally from 1998 to 2015, but it can happen. Yeah, and I did post a lot of non-makeup, non-drag pictures on my Instagram and Facebook and things, because those pictures were very healing and therapeutic, and I didn't care. I'm like, you know what? This is my favorite aunt, and she's back. Granted, she never left, but she's back. You know, I'm a work in progress, and I learned so much on this trip. And I even confessed, you know, to my cousin Jeremy, I'm like, I was very involved in the youth, and I still feel that my heart is involved in the youth. And if I could find a church that accepted me as an openly out, comfortable homosexual, I would love to be involved in the youth again. But I think that would be hard to find a church that was like, yeah, there's a gay guy running our youth program. You never know. Times are changing. But I'm learning, I'm changing, I'm growing, and my family is too. Actions speak louder than words. Just remember that. And my family truly showed me that. Everyone in their own unique way truly made me feel so much love on this trip. And I'm thankful for that. A lot of deep, dark, ugly demons were able to come out and be buried. And I'm thankful. This trip was very hard for me, but as you can see, I didn't just dip my toes in the water. Like Neil Armstrong said, this is a small step for man, but a huge step for mankind. This Alaska trip was intended to be a baby step for me to re-submerge myself into my family, but it ended up being a giant step for my soul. And I'm thankful to my mom for welcoming me back into the family, and my father, and all my cousins and siblings, and everyone. You are loved. It changed my life. Anyways, that was a Misty moment. Loving you is easy. I can't believe I cried. I wasn't going to cry this one. I'm not a crybaby, I promise. Loving you is easy. Bye.